So today I wanted to take a quick look at Body Parts, the 1991 somewhat of a sci-fi horror thriller. It's a very interesting mesh. The film was released by Paramount Pictures. It was based on a novel written by Boileau-Narcejac, which is actually just a nom de plume or pen name. So the name itself is actually just a fusion between the two authors' names. It's somewhat of a collaboration that they have done. The first part of the name does come from Pierre Boileau, and we also have Thomas Narcejac. The film Body Parts was obviously based off of their novel In La Tuette un homme, which the English version of the name is Choice Cuts. There was a previous attempt in the 60s to make the film. It fell through, and obviously the 1991 version is the only one in existence. Several of their works have been successful and have been adapted for film. One of those films being Vertigo, which was directed obviously by Alfred Hitchcock. Another one was Les Diaboliques, and the third one, which was actually adapted from someone else's work. The book itself, or the film, was Les Yeux sans Visage, which was written by Jean Reynaud. Obviously, most people do know the film as Eyes Without a Face. The film does star Jeff Fahey as Bill Cruikshank. He is the protagonist. He is the person who does receive a transplanted arm and sets off the rest of our film into motion. Another fellow recipient is played by Brad Dourif, who in the film is a painter by the name of Renaud Lacey. He obviously doesn't receive success until after he begins receiving visions or some type of a nightmare type images, which are obviously from the killer. The limbs are taken from a man who was on death row. So we do have Jeff Fahey, who received an arm. We have Brad Dourif, who received another arm, and another poor man which was paralyzed. He received the legs. But the film does begin with Bill Cruikshank, or Jeff Fahey's character. He's driving on his way to work, gets into a severe car accident, and upon watching the scene, I just had a very big wow factor. I watch a lot of gruesome films. I'm not very easily impressed, but the fact that an 18-wheeler comes up and knocks him out of his vehicle, out of his windshield, it's basically a 3-car pileup. It's not as gruesome as you may think, but it's definitely, at least for the person who did the stunt double work, it was quite a feat to have accomplished, and I was very impressed with the effect. So upon being at the hospital, his wife is given some type of a release form so that he could receive a replacement arm rather than a prosthetic. So she does sign the form. He receives the arm and gradually does begin to recuperate. Obviously, it isn't long before he himself begins having these nightmares. He takes on just a rather very Linda Blair-esque turn of events. He becomes foul-mouthed, he strikes his children, he at one point strangles his wife. Obviously, this was a very loving father. This isn't something that he normally would have done. We are led to believe that since the arm itself came from an evil person, maybe the root of evil lies within the flesh, which does happen to be one of the taglines from the film. Later, we do discover that the doctor, being very ambitious on her own, transplanted the murderer's head onto a separate body. Supposedly, the fact that he's still alive, he can still control his displaced limbs. It isn't long before Brad Dourif and Jeff Fahey are being pursued, as well as the paralyzed man. He literally does have his legs torn off, as well as Brad Dourif's character. We later discover that the killer is alive and very well. He is recollecting his limbs and will stop at nothing to recuperate himself. The confusion for myself in here does happen in the fact that the doctor happens to be working alongside him. So was this an ultimate experiment on her part? Obviously, he was a death row inmate. He was executed, but rather than electrocute or do any other type of bit, there's reference within the film that he witnessed himself being cut up. Rather than turning these parts over to whoever they need to be taken to dispose of, the doctor recycled and obviously kept the brain, pasted it on someone else, and now she's playing some sort of a jigsaw game to put the man back together. I just don't understand that one bit, but the film itself actually does hold up very well. It seems like a rather strange plot. It's not actually as bizarre a film as it may seem. It's actually rather realistically portrayed. It's not as cheesy or campy either as it could have been. It was actually very well produced. It's a strong story. At one point we actually do see the limbs just jiggling about. We do have the torso and the legs, which in its bit is kind of funny, just seeing these animatronic limbs just wiggling about, but still it's not as humorous as it could have been. The focus is actually on the tension within the room, the characters who are obviously wanting to reverse the surgery and put the cut-up murder back together. I first saw the film in theater when I was very young. There are actually just very brief moments within the film that I did recall, but it was definitely a really good movie. I think it held up extremely well, and I would definitely give it another look. But that is all I have for you today, and I will see you when I see you.